My name is Sylvie Hart, 28 years old. At 7:04 p.m. on Friday, my phone pinged with a message from my boyfriend, Caleb Monroe, 26. Heading to Mom's. Diane isn't feeling great. I'll stay a few hours. Love you. It fit his reliable son performance. Caleb was good at that. Flowers on Mother's Day, grocery runs, fixing the flickering porch light at Diane's bungalow like he was tightening a halo. I had soup humming on low and laundry turning like a quiet metronome of domestic peace. The night felt small, safe, contained. At 8:12, I noticed his iPad on the coffee table, screen still lit, the Find My Map, open from earlier when he'd torn the apartment apart looking for a runaway AirPod. A bright green dot pulsed. Not the suburbs. Downtown. Meridian Hotel. Rooftop bar. I watched the dot the way people watch lightning storms, half expecting the sky to correct itself. Maybe a detour, I told myself, maybe a quick client toast, then he'd drive out to Diane. I waited 15 minutes. The dot did not move. I zoomed in. Floor indicator, rooftop. I could have called. I could have driven 10 minutes and stepped into the elevator that smelled like citrus and money. But something in me, call it a hinge finally giving, went quiet. If he was lying, there would be a reason. I wanted the reason to surface on its own, uncoached. I took a screenshot, circled Meridian Rooftop, and texted Diane. Looks like he missed his exit. Hope you're feeling better. The response detonated my phone. 3 missed calls from Diane in under 2 minutes. When I answered, her confusion was a clean, unvarnished thing. What do you mean, sweetheart? I'm not sick. I haven't seen Caleb since Tuesday. Her voice shifted, confusion to steel. Forward me that screenshot. I heard her breath steady. I'll handle it. 20 minutes later, my phone became an alarm system. Caleb calling, texting, calling again. The messages tried on tones like suits. Hey babe, Mom's already better. Heading home soon. Why aren't you answering? Is everything okay? Sylvie, please pick up. It isn't what it looks like. I can explain. I put the phone face down. The soup on the stove sighed. In the hallway, a neighbor's dog sneezed. Funny the details your mind makes room for when your life is suddenly shrinking around a single pulsing dot. At 11:56, I powered my phone off and let the apartment go still. When I turned it back on near midnight, the screen filled with need. 37 missed calls, 52 texts, 8 voicemails. The last voicemail was the sound of a man trying to be a boy again, tears clogging the words. He said he was outside, that he'd forgotten his keys, that I needed to let him in. I looked through the peephole. There he was, hair combed too carefully, jacket better suited for a rooftop than a recovery room. He smelled like hotel air and mint when I cracked the door. Your stuff will be in boxes by Monday, I said, and let the door find its frame. The pounding started immediately. First palms, then fist, then the open-throated anger, that I didn't trust him, that I was dramatic, that Diane embarrassed him at the hotel, that, how dare I, send his mother? His voice collected neighbors like static collects dust. I slid on my noise-canceling headphones and lay in the guest room staring at the ceiling, counting the tiny chips in the paint over the closet door the way I used to count breaths in yoga class. The anger outside thinned into a hoarse pleading, then a dull, defeated rhythm against the wood, and finally, silence. Saturday morning came with the smell of hallway disinfectant and the building manager's soft knock. When I opened the door, Caleb fell backward into the apartment like he'd been holding himself upright against it all night. The manager kept his eyes on the floor, embarrassed for all of us. We had, complaints, he said, eyes flicking to the scuff marks along the baseboard. I'm sorry, I told him. It won't happen again. Caleb straightened, rage jettisoned for the wounded incredulity. You humiliated me, he said, low and shaking. My mother called me 40-something times. She showed up at the hotel, Sylvie. Do you know how? How what? I asked. How embarrassing it is to be caught lying. I wasn't doing anything wrong. His eyes didn't quite land on mine. It was just drinks with friends. Which friends? Silence is the truest language I've ever heard anyone speak. He didn't answer, so I did. Here's how today goes, I said. You have 1 hour to pack essentials, clothes, toiletries, medications. The rest will coordinate through a third party. I set my phone on the console table. One more thing. The lease is up in 11 days. Only my name is on it. I handed him the document I had printed at 6 o'clock a.m., formal 30-day notice that I would not renew with him on it. this is your notice. His mouth worked around a laugh that wasn't funny. You can't just kick me out. I live here. I have rights. You're right, I said calmly, which is why I'm honoring every one of them, on paper. The performance shifted, anger to aggrieve to attack. You're controlling. You sent my mother after me. That's sick. No, I said. I sent your mother a screenshot showing you weren't where you said you'd be. What happened after that is between you and her. He moved toward the bedroom. The knob didn't turn. I had quietly swapped the interior lock at sunrise and placed his essentials, neatly folded, into 3 boxes in the living room. The way his jaw clenched at the sight was almost classical, like a statue of a man realizing he's been carved in the wrong pose. You'll regret this, he said. I doubt it. He grabbed the boxes and left, shoulders squared like a dare, and when the door slammed, a picture frame tipped, teetered, and finally fell, glass finding the floor in one clean, resigned shatter. By afternoon, I was deep cleaning like I could exercise memory with lemon oil when an unknown local number lit my phone. Hello? Hi, is this Sylvie? My name's Jerome. I'm a bartender at the Meridian. I probably shouldn't be calling, but my conscience. He exhaled. Look, your boyfriend, Caleb, he's been coming in every Friday for about 2 months. Same routine. Rooftop. Always with Gavin Walsh, family of the boss, I think, and a rotating cluster of hangers-on. They pay in cash, act like the bar is theirs. Last night, an older woman stormed in. Security had to escort them out. A small part of me wanted it to be simpler, just cheating. Simple is cleaner. But the word cash snagged like a burr. Thank you, I said. You didn't have to call. Yeah, well, Jerome said. Some people tip in money, some tip in truth. He hung up. The apartment hummed in the quiet. The green dot had started as a betrayal of romance. Now it pulsed with something colder, receipts, budgets, someone else's account. I set the phone down and opened the windows. Outside, the city yawned into afternoon. Inside, I wrote a list in block letters. Locks, lease, inventory, documents. Every item steadied me. There's an art to refusing chaos its favorite weapon, your reaction. My screen lit again. Diane, can we meet tomorrow morning? Coffee? I found something you need to see. I stared at the message, at the way the words paced between apology and resolve. Yes, I typed back. Tell me where. Some stories end with a bang. Mine apparently was going to spiral, in neat line items and line item crimes. The worst part wasn't that I hadn't seen it coming. It was that I had, and I'd smoothed the edges with soup, with laundry, with faith. I closed the window, folded the list into my pocket, and let the apartment be quiet enough to hear myself think. Tomorrow, we would name the shape of this thing. Tonight, I would sleep with the door locked and the kettle ready. Sunday sunlight poured through the blinds like nothing had happened, like the world was pretending. My name is Sylvie Hart, and I'd always thought pretending was a skill of mine, too. Turns out Caleb was better. Diane picked the cafe on 9th Street, the one with chipped blue mugs and ivy trying to escape its pots. When she walked in, she looked like she hadn't slept, a mother whose love had been hijacked by disbelief. Thank you for coming, she said, setting her phone down between us, like a referee. Of course, I said quietly. I owe you honesty, she began, her voice trembling but deliberate. When I saw that screenshot, I drove straight there. Meridian rooftop. Caleb wasn't alone. He was with Gavin Walsh, the boss's son from his firm, and a few others. Expensive suits, drinks, women I didn't recognize. He wasn't working. He was showing off. She shook her head. And the bar tab went on the company account. Patricia, his boss, called me this morning. She's noticed missing funds. Reimbursement forms with fake clients. One of those fake clients. She slid a folder across the table. Was you. Inside were printed expense reports. My name appeared 3 times, signed in a looping signature that wasn't mine, under Client Entertainment Dinner. Dates lined up with nights he claimed to be working late or visiting Diane. I stared at the papers. He forged me, I whispered. Diane's mouth trembled, but her voice was steel. I raised him better, but I won't cover for him. The air between us went still. Outside, the world clinked its spoons and didn't care. I realized that somewhere between heartbreak and humiliation, a strange calm had returned, the kind that comes when love no longer has anywhere to hide. That evening, back in my apartment, I printed my own evidence. Text logs, screenshots, timestamps. The paper stack was heavier than grief, lighter than denial. At 6:07 p.m., the doorman buzzed. "Ms. Hart, there's a man downstairs insisting on seeing you." "Tell him I'm not available. He says he's your boyfriend." "Then he's not anymore." I watched through the lobby camera feed. Caleb pacing, gesturing at his phone, looking every bit the man who thought charm could undo truth. After 20 minutes, he gave up and left. Monday morning, I went to the gym as usual, the one place I hadn't had to scrub of his shadow. But when I walked in, my stomach tightened. Talia, his older sister, was there. Tall, muscled, and flanked by two of her friends like a bad omen in yoga pants. They blocked the entrance with the smug solidarity of people certain they're right. "Well," she said, folding her arms, "you really blew up my brother's life." "Funny," I said, brushing past her. "He was already holding the match." "Don't play innocent, Sylvie. He told me you set him up, that you're spreading lies." I turned to face her. "If you're here to intimidate me, you're late. The evidence already did that." The gym manager, Marcus, appeared like a deus ex machina in sneakers. "Ladies, everything okay?" Talia's jaw set. "We're members. Mind your business." Marcus tapped his tablet. "Actually, your membership was revoked 6 months ago for aggressive behavior. You're trespassing." Her face drained of color. I almost pitied her. Almost. She muttered something about lawyers and stormed out, her entourage trailing behind. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Friend of yours?" "Relative of a bad habit," I said. He chuckled, then went back to the desk. When I got home that afternoon, I had a voicemail waiting from an unfamiliar number. "Hi, this is Patricia Walsh from Meridian Marketing. I believe you're connected to Caleb Monroe?" I froze. "Yes." "I need to confirm something for our internal investigation," Patricia continued, measured, polite, lethal. "Have you ever attended business dinners with our firm or represented a client account?" "Never," I said. "I work in software development. We don't even share vendors." "That's what I thought. Would you be willing to sign an affidavit confirming that?" "Of course." "Thank you," she said, her tone sharpening. "And I'm sorry." When the line disconnected, I stood there staring at the kettle, realizing I hadn't poured a single cup of tea since Friday night. The apartment felt sterile, stripped of warmth, but rich with clarity. That's what truth does. It empties, then cleans. By Wednesday morning, everything detonated. Caleb and Gavin were both fired. Patricia filed fraud and embezzlement charges. The company group chat exploded. Screenshots, whispers, digital shockwaves. At noon, my building's security desk called up. "Ms. Hart, there's a man in the lobby saying he needs to speak with you urgently." "Who?" "Caleb Monroe." "Do not let him upstairs," I said, "but I'll come down." He was sitting on this vinyl couch, hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot. When he saw me, he stood as if a cue had been given. "Sylvie, please, I need to explain." "Explain which part?" I asked. "The lies, the forged reports, the stolen money, or the way you turned me into a fake client?" "It wasn't like that. Gavin said everyone did it. It was just dinners." I tilted my head. "With me?" He swallowed hard. "You don't understand corporate culture." "I understand theft," I interrupted. "So does Patricia. So will the DA." His expression hardened. "You think you're better than me now? You wouldn't even have your job if I hadn't helped you." "By lying for you?" I said. "That's not help. That's infection." He tried to step closer, but the guard intervened. "Sir, you need to leave." Caleb's voice cracked between fury and pleading. "You'll regret this. I loved you. Then you should have protected what you loved." The door slid shut between us. That night, Diane texted again. "He's spiraling. I had to cut him off financially. It broke me, but enabling him would break me worse." Then, a minute later, "You did the right thing." I put the phone face down and stared at the ceiling, the hum of the refrigerator filling the silence like a white flag. Somewhere in that sound, I realized this wasn't heartbreak anymore. It was detox. Outside, rain began tapping against the window, soft but steady, like someone polite trying to remind me the world still existed. I let it in. By Thursday, the story wasn't just gossip, it was wildfire. Emails leaked, screenshots circulated. Even the receptionist at Caleb's old firm had started a Reddit thread titled, "When the Golden Boy Falls." My name is Sylvie Hart, and all I wanted was silence. Not vindication, not revenge, just a morning where my name wasn't attached to someone else's mistakes. But that was too much to ask. At 8:42 a.m., Patricia Walsh called again. Her voice was tired but purposeful. "Ms. Hart, we've completed our audit. The damage totals around $8,000. It's small enough to recover, but big enough for charges." I'm sorry, I said automatically. You don't owe an apology, she replied. You were collateral. I just need you to sign the affidavit today. We're moving forward. I agreed. When I hung up, my hands were shaking. Not from fear, from the realization that Caleb's unraveling wasn't theoretical anymore. It was paperwork, timelines, and ink. The confrontation. At 11 o'clock a.m., my intercom buzzed. Ms. Hart, your visitor is back. Says it's urgent. Visitor was polite. I opened the building's camera feed. Caleb stood in the lobby again, this time without the charm or the suit. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot, his hair uncombed, a version of himself stripped of polish. Security wouldn't let him up, but I went down anyway. I wanted it over. He stood when he saw me. You turned Patricia against me. I folded my arms. She turned on theft, not me. I didn't steal. Gavin said it was covered. Client dinners, conference room charges. Everyone does it. You faked my signature. I panicked, he said quickly. You wouldn't understand what it's like. Pressure, quotas. No, I said quietly. You're right. I don't understand lying to the person who'd have defended you if you just told me the truth. He took a step closer. You think you're so righteous? You used me? The irony was breathtaking. For what? Loyalty? Rent stability? I laughed once, hollow, tired. You used everyone, Caleb, even your mother. He flinched at that. The truth landed harder than anger ever could. I loved you, he said finally, voice trembling. You can't just walk away like it meant nothing. It did mean something, I said. That's why I can't pretend anymore. The guard intervened when his tone shifted from pleading to sharp. They escorted him out while he shouted something about lawyers and fairness, words that echoed off the marble walls but landed nowhere. When the door shut, I realized my hands weren't shaking anymore, just steady, cold. The sister strikes back. That evening, a delivery arrived. An envelope slid under my door, unmarked. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a printed post from Talia's Facebook, captioned in all caps. Women who destroy men's lives for clout are just as evil as cheaters. Attached were pictures of Caleb, crying, disheveled, and a paragraph painting me as a vindictive ex who weaponized corporate drama. The comments were worse. Pity for him, venom for me. I'd seen social assassinations before, but watching my name turn into a cautionary tale was something else entirely. I sat at my desk for an hour, scrolling, rereading. My heart wanted to defend itself. My brain knew better. At 9:11, my phone buzzed. Diane. I saw Talia's post, she said without preamble. She's humiliated our family enough. I called her. I told her if she doesn't take it down, I'll send her the full police report. Funny thing, it's gone now. Her voice softened. You're handling this better than most would. I'm just tired, I said. That's still strength, sweetheart, just a quiet kind. The collapse. By Friday, the charges were public. Caleb and Gavin both fired, both named in Patricia's statement. HR emails leaked. Group chats buzzed. Diane texted, he's staying with Talia. It's not going well. No kidding. Saturday morning, a mutual friend sent me a screenshot. Caleb's Instagram story. A black screen with white text. Sometimes you don't realize you're trapped in a toxic relationship until you finally breathe. The comments flooded in. You deserve better. She didn't appreciate you. Controlling women are the worst. I almost laughed. The narrative shift was textbook and almost artistic in its audacity. By noon, Diane called again, voice shaking with exhaustion. He's telling people you were abusive, that you sabotaged his career. Let him, I said. I have proof. Still, she said softly, it breaks me to see how far he'll go to avoid the mirror. We sat in silence for a few beats. Then she said something I'll never forget. He's always been afraid of consequences. You just stopped cushioning him from them. That evening, I poured myself a glass of wine and opened my laptop. For the first time in days, I didn't open news or screenshots or anything about Caleb. I opened a blank document. At the top, I wrote, sometimes closure doesn't come from forgiveness. It comes from documentation. I saved it, closed the screen, turned off the light. And for the first time that week, I slept without the need to keep my phone face down.